But this whole idea of rewiring our brains can feel a bit daunting. Where do we even begin? What are some practical steps people can take to start tapping into this potential?
Well, Dr. Dispenza emphasizes the importance of meditation as a foundation for all of these practices. He even provides a guided meditation in the book, which walks readers through a process of open focus, mental rehearsal, and emotional embodiment.
What exactly is open focus? I've heard of different types of meditation, but I'm not familiar with that term.
It's a technique that encourages us to expand our awareness beyond the usual limitations of our senses and thoughts. Instead of focusing on a specific object or mantra, as you might do in other forms of meditation, open focus encourages a gentle, expansive awareness of the space around you, the sensations in your body, and even the subtle energy field that surrounds you.
So it's about shifting from a narrow, externally focused perspective to a more expansive, internally focused one.
Precisely. And in that expanded state of awareness, we become more receptive to new possibilities, new ways of being, and new ways of healing. It's like opening a window to the quantum field, that infinite realm of potential where anything is possible.
That makes sense. But a lot of people struggle with meditation. They find it hard to quiet their minds, and they get frustrated when they can't seem to empty their thoughts. What advice would you give to someone who's new to meditation or who's had trouble with it in the past?
First of all, it's important to remember that there's no right way to meditate. It's a practice, not a performance, and it's about progress, not perfection. If you find your mind wandering, which is perfectly normal, simply acknowledge those thoughts without judgment and gently guide your attention back to your breath or whatever you're focusing on. And don't get discouraged if it feels challenging at first. Like any skill, meditation takes practice. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah.
So we start with meditation to cultivate a more expansive awareness and access the power of the subconscious mind. Then we use mental rehearsal and emotional embodiment to create a clear vision and feeling of our desired outcome. But this whole process sounds like it takes a lot of time and effort. What about people who are busy with work, family, and all the demands of modern life? How can they realistically incorporate these practices into their already hectic schedules?
You bring up a valid point. It's about finding what works for you and integrating these practices into your daily routine in a way that feels sustainable. Even small, consistent steps can have a cumulative effect over time. You don't have to spend hours in meditation every day to experience the benefits. Even 5 or 10 minutes of focused breathing or visualization can make a difference.
So it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly. And it's about making these practices a part of your life, not just something you do when you have time or when you're feeling stressed. It's like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. It's a form of self-care that nourishes your mind, body, and spirit.
I love that analogy. It reframes these practices as essential self-care rituals, rather than something extra we have to squeeze into our already busy schedules. So we've talked about the importance of meditation, visualization, and emotional embodiment. But are there any other tools or techniques that people can use to become their own placebos?
Dr. Dispenza talks about the power of affirmations, which are positive statements that we repeat to ourselves to reprogram our subconscious mind. When we repeat affirmations with conviction and feeling, we're essentially planting new seeds in the garden of our mind, seeds that can grow into new beliefs and behaviors.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I've heard people say that affirmations don't really work, that it's just wishful thinking. What would you say to that?
It's true that simply repeating affirmations without any real belief or emotional engagement is unlikely to produce lasting change. It's like planting a seed in dry, barren soil. But when we combine affirmations with a genuine desire for change and a willingness to embrace new beliefs, they can be a powerful tool for transformation.
So it's not just about the words themselves, it's about the energy and intention we bring to them.
Precisely. And it's about choosing affirmations that resonate with us on a deep level, affirmations that inspire us and feel aligned with our authentic selves.
Okay, so we've got meditation, visualization,
Yeah.
emotional embodiment, and affirmations. Are there any other tools in the placebo toolbox?
Another powerful tool is gratitude. When we cultivate a sense of gratitude, we're shifting our focus from what's lacking in our lives to what we already have. This shift in perspective can have a profound impact on our emotional state and even our physical health.
That makes sense. Gratitude has been shown to reduce stress, improve sleep, and even boost the immune system. But how do we cultivate gratitude when we're facing challenges or feeling down?
It's a practice just like meditation. It starts with making a conscious effort to notice and appreciate the good things in our lives, even the small things, like a beautiful sunset, a warm cup of tea, or a kind word from a friend.
So it's about training our minds to focus on the positive aspects of our experience rather than dwelling on the negative.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that even in the midst of challenges, there's always something to be grateful for.
This is all great advice, but I have to admit I'm still feeling a little skeptical. I mean, it's one thing to hear about these concepts and techniques, but it's another thing to actually believe that we have the power to heal ourselves and create our own reality. How do we bridge that gap between intellectual understanding and genuine belief?
That's a question that many people grapple with. It's natural to feel skeptical, especially when these ideas challenge our ingrained beliefs and the dominant paradigm of our culture. But the more we explore this field of the mind-body connection, the more we realize that what we once thought was impossible is actually within the realm of possibility. And the more we practice these techniques, the more evidence we accumulate in our own lives that supports this new understanding.
So it's about taking that leap of faith, that willingness to experiment and see for ourselves what's possible.
Exactly. And it's about being open to the idea that we may not have all the answers, that there's still much to learn about the mysteries of the mind and its power to shape our reality.
I appreciate your willingness to acknowledge the skepticism that many people feel about these concepts. It makes this whole conversation feel more grounded and accessible.
It's important to approach these ideas with a healthy dose of discernment, to question what resonates with us and to let go of what doesn't. But it's also important to remain open to the possibility that we may be capable of far more than we've been led to believe.
I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've covered a lot of ground, from the scientific evidence for the placebo effect to the practical tools and techniques for becoming our own placebos. But there's still so much more to explore. We've been having such a thought-provoking conversation about the placebo effect and the power of our minds to shape our reality. We've talked about rewiring our brains and tapping into the quantum field and becoming our own placebos. Now, I'm curious to explore how this all ties together. What's the big picture here?
That's a great question. If you think about it, what we're really talking about is a paradigm shift, a fundamental change in the way we view ourselves and our relationship to the world. For centuries, the dominant paradigm has been one of materialism,
Right.
the belief that the physical world is all that exists, and that our minds are merely byproducts of our brains. But the more we learn about the mind-body connection, the more we realize that this paradigm is incomplete.
It's like we're discovering that there's like a whole other dimension of reality, a realm of consciousness and energy that we're only just beginning to understand.
Yeah.
But how does this new understanding translate into like practical applications? How can we use this knowledge to create positive change in our lives and in the world?
Well, it starts with recognizing that we're not just victims of our circumstances or our genetics. We have a much greater degree of agency than we've been led to believe. We have the power to choose our thoughts, our beliefs, and our emotions, and those choices have a direct impact on our experience of reality.
So instead of being passive observers, we're active creators of our own reality.
Yeah.
But doesn't that put a lot of pressure on us? What if things aren't going the way we want them to? Does that mean we're doing something wrong?
That's a common misconception. It's not about blaming ourselves or feeling like we have to control every aspect of our lives. It's about recognizing that we have a role to play in shaping our reality. And that role involves making conscious choices that are aligned with our deepest values and desires.
So it's not about forcing things to happen,
Hmm.
but about creating an internal environment that's conducive to the outcomes we desire. But what about all the things that are outside of our control, like illness, accidents, or natural disasters?
Yeah.
How do we reconcile this idea of personal responsibility with the reality that sometimes bad things happen no matter how positive our mindset is?
That's a really important question. It's crucial to acknowledge that we don't have control over everything that happens in our lives. There will always be challenges, setbacks, and unexpected events. But even in the midst of those challenges, we still have a choice in how we respond. We can choose to react with fear, anger, or despair. Or we can choose to respond with courage, compassion, and resilience.
So it's not about denying the reality of our situation,
Yeah.
but about choosing how we relate to it, how we interpret it, and how we move forward from it.
Exactly. And even in the face of adversity, we can still tap into the power of the placebo effect. We can choose to believe in our body's innate capacity to heal, to focus on the positive aspects of our situation, and to cultivate a sense of gratitude for the things we still have.
That's a powerful message of hope and empowerment. But it also raises the question of responsibility. If our thoughts and beliefs have such a profound impact on our reality, doesn't that mean we're also responsible for the negative things that happen in our lives?
That's a complex issue, and one that deserves careful consideration. It's important to distinguish between responsibility and blame. While we may not be directly responsible for every event that occurs in our lives, we are responsible for how we choose to respond to those events.
Okay.
And we are responsible for cultivating a mindset that is aligned with health, well-being, and positive change.
So it's about taking ownership of our thoughts and beliefs, recognizing that they have a real impact on our experience, and choosing to focus on those thoughts and beliefs that empower us and support our well-being.
Exactly. And it's about understanding that we're all interconnected, that our thoughts and beliefs not only impact our own lives, but also contribute to the collective consciousness of humanity.
That brings us back to the concept of the quantum field, where all possibilities exist simultaneously, and it's our observation, our focused attention and belief that can influence which possibility becomes our reality. If enough people are focused on fear, lack, and scarcity, does that actually create more of that in the world?
It's a sobering thought, but it also offers a glimmer of hope. If we can shift our individual consciousness towards love, abundance, and possibility, we can contribute to a more positive reality for everyone.
It's like we're all part of this grand cosmic experiment, and the outcome depends on the choices we make, both individually and collectively.
It's a beautiful and awe-inspiring perspective, isn't it?
It really is. It makes you realize that we're not just passive observers, we're active participants in the unfolding of reality. And that's incredibly empowering, but it also makes you wonder about the role of free will. If our thoughts and beliefs are so powerful, do we really have free will? Or are we just products of our programming?
That's a question that philosophers have been debating for centuries, and it's one that we may never have a definitive answer to. But from the perspective of the placebo effect and the mind-body connection, it seems that we do have a certain degree of choice in how we respond to our programming. We can choose to become aware of our limiting beliefs and to challenge them. We can choose to cultivate new beliefs and habits that support our well-being. And we can choose to tap into the power of the placebo effect to create positive change in our lives.
So it's not about denying our past or our programming, but about recognizing that we have the power to rewrite our story, to create a new narrative that is more aligned with our true potential.
Beautifully said. It's about becoming the authors of our own lives rather than just characters in someone else's script.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive into the placebo effect and the mind-body connection. From the science of epigenetics to the mysteries of the quantum field, we've explored a vast and fascinating landscape of possibilities. But ultimately, it all comes down to this. We have more power than we realize to shape our reality and to create a life of health, well-being, and fulfillment.
And it all starts with belief. The belief that we are capable of healing ourselves, of transforming our lives, and of creating a better world.
It's been an incredible journey, and I hope our listeners feel as inspired and empowered as I do. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of the placebo effect and the mind-body connection.